What on earth do we do when someone in our lives, maybe even a loved one, chooses not to forgive us? Whether we've done something wrong or whether we haven't, whether we've apologized or not. This is an experience that just doesn't get talked about much when you're the one that is being the unforgiven. What do we do in such situations? And there is this old adage that says that we must forgive and forget. But honestly, who on earth actually forgives and forgets? I don't think that's even humanly possible, And if you're wondering, it's not even a biblical or godly principle. What Jesus did say was to forgive 70 times 7. That's way more than what is humanly possible as well. But I think his whole point was to just forgive and forgive continually. So, what happens when we are the ones not being forgiven? What do we do with that? First of all, I'm going to acknowledge the fact that this is actually a really, really painful experience. That's possibly why nobody talks about it, and nobody wants to admit that they're the ones not being forgiven, because all of us want to save face a little bit, right? But I've definitely been in that situation, at least a couple of times in my life where someone has chosen to get angry and stay angry at me and just not give me their time of day anymore, forevermore. And it's really, really painful. It doesn't matter how angry you felt towards that person as well. It doesn't matter that maybe you had a big blue and or that you disagree on a really important topic. All of that seems to not matter when you're sitting in your pain and all you want is for it to be done and for it to go away and for it to heal. And when someone chooses not to forgive you, then there's no healing being had. So yeah, let's talk about that. So first of all, as a general rule, someone else's behaviors, thoughts, beliefs, attitudes towards you is not something that's within your control. That is fortunately or unfortunately, but I like to think of it as fortunately, because what it means is that this then frees you. Free, freeze, gives you freedom, because you don't have to. You don't have to try and control the situation. You don't have to try and change it. You don't have to try and control them and their emotions, because that is humanly impossible. So when we can realize that timeless truth that we don't have any responsibility for the way someone else is choosing to behave towards us, we can take a breath of fresh air and realize that it's not ours to fix, and it's a problem that we can certainly move on from. But what happens when actually we're just not ready to deal with that? Because that's some pretty high and self-actualized type of stuff that we may not have reached. We may not have gotten to that point where we can just go, oh, well, this person's really angry at me and there's nothing I can do, so I'm just going to move on. There is actually something that if you feel you need to do something about it, there is actually life advice on that from God's word, from the Bible. Now, you may or may not be into the Bible, that's okay. The fact is, there's advice out there. It comes from that book, so happens. But I'm going to share that advice for you because it's solid advice. It gives you clear steps on what to do when you're in a situation where someone has hurt you or offended you. So For those of you who are interested, is found in Matthew 8, verses 15 to 17. And those couple of little verses are Jesus himself talking about what to do when someone has crossed the line with you, or someone has, when you feel that you have a situation that you're not happy with somebody else. So step one, there's 3 steps. Step 1 is to actually go and talk to that person. I know, right? That's like actually really scary. But thankfully in this day and age, especially for those of us who are neurodivergent, we kind of we're happy with a little text, or and I'm sure many of our kids are also growing up in a world where we just don't really do the face-to-face thing. But here is the instruction and the advice is to go and talk to the person. And thankfully we do have lots of ways to communicate these days. We can text, we can use any of the social media messaging type services. We can still pick up the phone if we want to. We can still write a letter. Who said we don't have to write a letter these days? We can send an email. We can send a voice clip. That's kind of nice, I think, because then people hear your vocal intonations. They can see that maybe you're not as angry as maybe the texts made out like you were. I don't know. I like the voice clip idea when I feel that it's important for them to hear the lightness and the love in my voice. So there's different ways that you can do that. Go talk to the person, tell them, I know you're still, in this case, we're talking about not being forgiven. You can talk to that person about, hey, I can tell that you're still angry at me. What can I do to help solve this? Or what can we do to move past this? Because I really appreciate your friendship, or your who you are in my life and what you mean to me. So that's step number 1. Step number 2 is if they don't want to listen, say nothing comes of it, they're like, nah, leave me alone, don't talk to me, or they keep ignoring you in social situations, or they just don't respond in any which way. Step number 2, and this gets scarier, step number 2 is to take somebody with you. So someone who's going to be a witness to the fact that you are actually trying to solve this problem. It can be even 2 or 3 people. That's the advice given in the Bible. I think in this day and age, that might seem a little bit aggressive, but let's say that you just reach out to that person and say, I'd like us to meet for coffee. Let's meet somewhere. I'm going to bring a couple of friends because I'd really like to just try and sort this out with you, or just come along, or however you're going to do it. I don't really know how, only you know your situation, only you know who you're dealing with as well. So then you can try and talk to them about it again, and this time you have other friends there, or other loved ones that can try and solve the situation. If it's like a family member, ideally, if we're going to go through traditional routes, ideally the extra people that should be there, I think, should be like the elders of the family. Like if you've got grandparents that are in your life still, maybe they could oversee that conversation with your maybe you and your parent, or you and your in-law, or you and your whoever it is that you're having trouble with. If it's a friend, maybe other friends, other mutual friends. So that's step number 2. Step number 3 is if they still don't listen, they might just take offense. They might be like, who do you think you are, bringing like a bunch of people to come and chat to me? They might. Or they might pretend to listen and go, yeah, and then you never hear from them again. Maybe. I don't know. I'm sort of coming up with these scenarios off the top of my head. And if you still want to solve this problem, you can then take it to the community at large that you are a part of. So in the Bible, of course, it's giving this advice to the people that are a part of the new church, or the upcoming church, because it's Jesus. Jesus is talking about taking it to the church, getting the elders of the church involved. We're not all a part of a church, though, are we? A church looks different these days. There's many of us that do. Sorry about that. I just moved my chair and yeah. So there's many of us that can be a part of a church. There's many of us that can move in and out of churches. There's many of us that are part of different groups that aren't churches, but they're like community groups, friendship groups, again, family groups. And that's step number 3, to take it to someone of authority within the community and get their help. Say, I really would like to sort this out with this person. I've tried once and twice. Are you able to have a chat with this person? Because I'm hurting and I really, really would like to solve this. So after that, say you do take that step number 3, person of authority goes and has a chat to them. If still nothing changes, then that is definitely like the sign for you to take as solid evidence that they really don't want to fix things with you, and that you can then just go, all right, well, I'm not going to treat you as a friend anymore, or I'm not going to treat you as a loved one anymore. I'm not going to treat you as an amazing co-worker anymore, because clearly you're not. Like, they're also making that choice. You've tried, you've gone through all the avenues, it still hasn't worked. Well, that would then be life telling you, nah, just don't worry about this person anymore. Just don't. And remember that whilst they may choose to stay angry at you, you don't have to burden yourself with that, okay? It's just not worth it. Not worth it. It's only going to hurt your soul. And this is where this freedom comes in, of not having any responsibility for someone else's feelings. And that's what we really need to aim for in our life. It's not, it's not being cold or distant or callous it's not like we don't care about their feelings. It's just that if we've already tried to amend things and they're choosing to stay within their feelings, that really is up to them. If they want to stay in that place of anger, it really is up to them. So it's up to us to stay within our domain, and they can stay in their domain. It's a domain of anger, but that really is up to them.